Hey everybody, it is Cinnamon Cooney, your Art Sherpa. Today we're going to paint this design that I did and shared with you about a month ago. This girl, this fantasy fairy girl, some of you guys saw Avatar in acrylic, step by step. This is a full tutorial. Every technique, every part of it is broken down. In fact, I'm actually doing it over 2 days because sometimes portraiture can be overwhelming. And I just didn't want us to feel pressured or rushed because I spent a while doing this original one. And I wanted you guys to have a little bit of a breath between the days. So you can kind of relax into maybe your first face. I don't know, right? So we're going to be breaking this down. On the mic is my husband, John.
Hello.
He's going to make sure that as I teach something, I demonstrate a technique, I explain something, that you guys can really see what's going on. We have robotic cameras, they zoom in. He makes sure that you guys have a really excellent view of what's going on. I am going to really make sure that I let you know what the mixes are, that I let you know what the tools are. Simple palette today, so that should be pretty easy. If you check the description, there's a link to the website. Now, I am going to freehand this in like I did the first time, and you can see me create this on a little 6-minute video that's part of the series where the original that you just saw, I painted and I recorded it so you could see me doing it. So you can see that process. I might change some things, simplify some things, because obviously designing is always different than teaching or painting. So you check the description below, there'll be a link to the website. On the website is a traceable, and you can use that traceable to transfer the face on yourself, and that way you don't have to be under the pressure or stress of trying to draw a face in for the first time. You can just transfer it on the canvas, and you would be doing that right now before we start if you wanted to paint along live. That's not the image.
I know, it'll switch in a second. I was doing something.
You were doing, I'm gonna block that image with my head. That's another painting that you can do. You could do that painting if you wanted to. That one's already done. I think it has a mini book. Now, we break these down into steps. We time stamp those steps. Those steps become chapters in a mini book that is released 7 to 14 days after. A lot of you guys hear me say that, but you don't have a reference. What that is anywhere between 20 to 40 pages of written instructions with step photos that match the video, where each step breaks down the materials we used in each step. Sometimes those are the things that are overwhelming for new students. And by having that made after a show, you have that extra resource. So if you're real close to being able to do this, but you need a little extra hand, know that that's coming out as soon as we can get that written. I love seeing everybody here. I was wondering how many people, this was such a popular painting, I was wondering how many people would show up for it, because it looks more challenging.
Yeah.
Should we go over the materials?
Sure,
I'm gonna sip my coffee. What I'm gonna do. Woohoo! Materials and coffee. Take a deep breath. It's the weekend. We're gonna calmly paint. Take a deep breath. It's the weekend. Now you'll see moderators in the chat, guys. Those are your ambassadors. I have almost, I think we're way over 1,500. I keep saying 1,500, but we may be circling 2,000 videos. And
I think
they
more
have them.
than that. Yeah, I think it's more than that too.
Yeah, they have them sort of memorized and they know where everything is. So put your questions all in caps. If I have a video that answers that, or there's a resource that we've already provided, they'll get that link for you. They'll help you find it. They'll make sure that you feel welcome. If you just need a first friend in the group, they're going to be there. Remember, they're viewers just like you, volunteers who've just been watching the show for a long time. So sometimes I'll answer your questions in the live show. 8x8 surface today. We've gotten so connected to the 8x8s. Mars Black, Dioxazine Purple, Quin Magenta, Phthalo Blue, Phthalo Green, Cad Yellow, Titanium White. I have got a Posca pen. This is the 3mm. I don't like the 1mm in the white. This is the white one. I also have fluid white paint. And at some point, I probably will be using some gloss glazing liquid by Golden, not any other brand. I don't usually go only this brand, only this product.
It's your Kleenex.
Yeah, but this is only this brand, only this product.
It's your name brand of a thing.
No, it's not my name brand of a thing. It is the only thing, and a lot of other things named themselves something similar, but are not the same product.
That's very good to know, to have a clarification on that. So
yeah.
There are many like it, but they are not the same.
There are many named it, and they are not like it.
But this is unique.
This is unique as a product, and it gives you a very singular experience. I wouldn't recommend something this way unless it was that. I'd be like, oh, get any glazing liquid. Don't get any glazing liquid. This is a slow drying extender. That's a whole different animal. Companies just name their stuff weird stuff. I'm going to sip my coffee some more and maybe put my cup down, and we'll start getting into our painting. Shall we put up a step one? So hopefully my chattiness gave you a second to find the traceable.
Finding it.
But remember, you can pause this during the live. You can rewatch later. You've got time. I'm going to sketch her in, and I'm sort of excited about that. I'm going to look at her over here. Okay, I was like worried that maybe she had been flipped, but she wasn't flipped. I was like, what's going on?
That's the problem. You had your canvas upside down. It's blank. It doesn't matter.
Don't say things like that, because I'll stop and think about it.
You'll be like, wait, is it upside
down? So I'm going to come past the halfway point, and I'm going to begin a very light, sketchy line down. This is a number 10 Raphael round. I'm just using a round. You can do this pre-sketching in chalk. Right? That's completely fine. I'm just sort of sketching in what I think is a base shape for my face. If you watch the time lapse, you'll see that's kind of exactly what I did. And I actually am using black for a reason. I'm going to go ahead and pull a neck down here. Comes between the mid-chin and the implication of the jaw here. I kind of give it a curved line. Then I'm going to go ahead and give myself a little vertical line up, as you do. Very sketchy, not heavy on the paint, right? Because I need to be able to paint it out. Vertical line across, right here. So if the head were all the way up here, this would be halfway between the top of the head and the chin, as you do. And then I'm going to go halfway between the chin and maybe a little shorter actually than halfway, because we want to sort of shorten this nose. And then right here, I'm going to put in my mouth. All right, so that's sort of how I let myself know, oh, hey, things are going to be here and there. Now I'm going to go ahead and sort of arc out my shape. I'm giving a little bit of an eye cavity here, and I'm just making sure we've got a little bit of a nice jawline. I know that I'm going to want to imply that my eyes are about this far apart, and I know that because my eyes will be the width of the eye itself. The length of the eye is the width in the distance between the nose. So that's how I make that decision. I'm going to go ahead and curl down a little smile for the nose. I know there'll be many adjustments here, but I'm going to just sort of get it in right now. Going to add the little ball to the top. This is about the size of a dime. Little parentheses for the sides of the nose. And I'm going to bring a line up from the ball on the nose. It's going to be the arc for the eyebrow. And then a little connective line from the in corner of the eye down to the flare of the nostril. And this is going to be a very kind of shallow depth on that. So that's really done a lot in shading. I just need to know where I want to put it. I know my eyebrow is going to be here, kind of up at the top of that nose. I like to bring a little arc up. Now I'm pretty sure this is going to be covered by hair, but by putting this in, I can tell how far over my hairline needs to be to hide the eye. It's like it is hiding the eye. I'm going to go ahead and arc a nice little line up. Changes may happen as we paint. That is not unusual for me, especially when I am freehanding a piece in like this. And, oh, don't use your coffee. Adding a little water to my brush to improve the flow.
Fastest way to have to make a new cup of coffee.
Fastest way. Get that going there. Now, I know I want kind of a little smile here. I'll sort of imply that. And I go down and up at the center. So it's a down and an up for the top lip shape. And then I'll bow the top of the lip in a nice little perfect bow. Make sure that I have a sense of where my chin might be down here. And sometimes that will move a little bit as I put in the mouth. I decide how pouty my mouth is going to be. I might move my chin down just a smidge. And again, I know that my hair will then definitely be coming along that trajectory, right? So that hides all of that feature over here. There we go. And then I know I've got another little hairline coming off there. The lid is fairly, I, who also have a lid without a deep crease, hooded lid. Jenna Bug, the Bug. I just mixed up everything. The Bug, sending light and love to all the Art Sherpa family. Thank you for bringing so much beauty to the world. They are so kind. Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and kind of put the eye in here. There we go. We've got a bit of the eye in here. So we know where everything essentially is. Now you're going to want to dry this very thoroughly before we do the next step, because we're going to use, these lines are going to get painted over several times, but they're a guide to us.
I have a couple questions for you before you go on to drawing. So, so one, when you're doing this technique here, and you're going to be doing the skin tone in blue, would you use a similar technique if you were using normal skin tones?
Yeah, all the techniques would be the same. The color mixes would be totally different, but the techniques would be the same.
And the other thing is that a lot of people voiced concerns about trying faces. Is just a lot of anxiety just around.
Oh yeah, it is the okay. So first, just know this: portraiture, faces, humans are the most anxiety that artists have, and the reason is because we all are pretty visually intelligent by design, by biology, to recognize faces and faces that are correct or are supposed to be the way our mind imagines them to be. So as artists, when we do faces, every mistake becomes hyper realized. That's one of the nice things about this, is because it's such a fantasy face. It's, oh, thank you, Heather C. You know, it's such a fantasy face that it does give you some forgiving nature in how it's created. And if you just use the traceable, if you're concerned about the construction, use the traceable, then paint the black paint over it, you will get there. Could this be done on a 6x6? This for any square canvas, it will relate out the same way.
Yeah, so that was Crystal. So yeah, you could totally do this on a smaller surface. You know, the smaller it is, you'll need to use a smaller brush because things will get a little smaller. If you're going to do it on a bigger canvas, maybe a little bigger brush, because then the strokes will be, you know, relatively scalar. It just takes a lot of time to paint a big surface with a small brush. Conversely, it's hard to get the detailed control on a small canvas with a big brush. So those are the primary things you just have to kind of keep in mind when doing that. Also, your printer can sometimes help scale things. So in that, it'll say print as a percentage size, and you can go over there and change it from 100 to 200%. That'll double the size, 300 double, triple, and you kind of play around with that, and it'll show you on a piece of paper. It might even scale it across several pieces of paper that you have to tape together. Different printers have different functions. So yeah, check all that stuff out.
Fun stuff. And remember, we're breaking this up into 2 points. So we got today, we've got tomorrow. There's not a rush. We're just painting along. We're doing it in a calm way. So I'll take a deep breath. If you're having anxiety, let's take a deep breath. It's going to be fine. Now I'm going to take a 1 inch Princeton Select oval mop brush. This is a synthetic mop. I'm going to go ahead and get it mildly damp and wipe that off on a paper towel. And I'm going to take my Quin Magenta and my Dioxazine Purple together. And I'm going to start mixing kind of the background of this. And I'm just going to paint right over my black lines. A little more white, I think. Maybe get a little bit of my Phthalo Blue. Just blend it out. This is sort of the beginning. It's not a lot of pressure, guys. We're just painting over our black lines. That's why it's important to dry it, because if you didn't have this thoroughly dry, you could be lifting your black lines up. And you really want them. They're kind of your friend through this. A little bit of my Phthalo Blue and Dioxazine Purple here as we go up. So many people thought this was inspired by Avatar, which I have not yet seen The Way of Water. Just a little more blue, a little more indigo as we go up, and I'm just painting the face. And you can see I'm just using soft pressure, and I'm letting the wet paint blend into the wet paint. And it's definitely a glaze, and you can see we're getting nice soft transitions, aren't we? Just all the way through. So easy to get these soft transitions. If I need a little more water on my brush, I can do that. A little white there. I'm just blending it out. Maybe a little more pink. And here's wild. I can go ahead and get a little yellow into that mix, and that kind of grays it out. Isn't that wild? Just blending that in there. Just a subtle little bit of what? Super fun. I'm going to rinse that out, and I'm going to dry this very, very thoroughly. Very thoroughly.
Yeah, so just make sure that as you go through here, you have to thoroughly dry that surface, because as you go on to the next layer, you don't want, especially as we start using some of the more watered down effects, you really want to make sure that that's thoroughly dry, so that the paint doesn't lift up off the surface. I see some good questions coming in here. I'll see if we can get some of those caught up. As for substitutions, substitutions are one of those funny things, especially here, because they can change the base color of your blues and things. I'll see if we can ask about color substitutions here towards the end, but that's always a touch and go kind of thing. So did you see the colors, the questions about color substitutions there?
No, I did not.
About Diox Purple?
Yes.
Could you substitute something else?
Violet.
Violet.
You can mix your own purple with your ultramarine blue and Quin Magenta ahead of time.
Okay.
So you're not really stuck there. I like the Diox Purple. You'll actually see this when we're doing the color mixing course. We talked about it specifically, why I have it in my palette in that. But you can absolutely exchange it.
All right, you ready
I'm
for
going
the
to
next
go
step?
ahead. Yeah, let's put up a new step. I'm going to get a little purple on my brush, and I'm going to go ahead and get a little yellow over here and quite a lot of white. And I'm going to go ahead and maybe lighten this up a bit. I love yellow and purple against each other, and then you can even, interestingly enough, get a little Quin into it. Come along the neck. I don't want to lose that line entirely, but you can see this gets painted over fairly quickly. A lot of times people are really stressed about the black lines. It's really not that stressful because it paints over fairly quickly. It's a nice color depth there. I like that quite a lot. Okay, I am going to take my... This is a number 12 Princeton Select. This is a great blending brush. This is just one of my favorites. And I'm going to begin putting in little planes of the face. And so I'm going to go ahead and take a little of my white and Diox Purple. Get a little bit of my quinacridone into it. And I'm going to start talking about the nose. Let's take that line up there. I'm going to go ahead and get my glazing liquid out now because there's going to be several layers of blending. One of the reasons why everyone's like, do this as a lesson, I'm like, let's take a couple of days, is because it's an involved project. Not because faces are hard, but because the painting has a lot going on in it. That was a lot of glazing liquid.
That's okay.
Don't put out that much.
Don't try to put it back in. Just once it's out, it's out.
It's out, it's out. I'm going to go ahead and get into my blue, my Phthalo Blue, maybe a little of my Diox Purple over here. And I'll go ahead and come on the inside of the eye and out a little bit. Maybe a little bit under the nose, up the far side. Back to the bowl of the nose. Many stages to this. I'm going to come out towards the nostril. So what I'm doing is I am shading the nose. We kind of do this in makeup where we're shading the bowl of the nose and we're making sure that there's a shadow underneath and that the bulb up here is brighter. And then we also like to kind of dish it in. So I'll actually have it be a little darker across here, but we're just putting in the begins. The begins. Kind of come across here and sort of do that little shading. I like to just play with it. You go ahead and blend in a little bit of white. You can see what I mean about the glazing liquid being a key part of this, being able to do glazes. Really helps just in general in faces. Just generally. I'm going to come add a slightly lighter value up at the top of the arc of the eye. always sort of shade under the hair. That's kind of a nice thing. We can always shade under the hair. Come here, it's a little Quin Magenta and Dioxazine Purple. You okay, babe?
Yeah.
Just bring that around. See, I took a little bit of purple around the far side. Don't worry, we won't go too far into this. We'll just take our time. I'm going to go ahead and start to talk about the little chin down here as having a bit of a highlight. And I can take this brush, as you'll notice, and I can kind of very softly blend and shade as I go, can't I? Because the brush is so soft. We have a lot of that going on in my little box here where we're trying to work on our little face. A little bit lighter to the outside crease of the mouth. And come in and grab a little bit of my magenta, a little bit of my yellow, a little bit of white. A little more yellow. And remember, guys, you have a second to work this out. Okay? You're not stuck. Let's do dark purple over here. We're going to kind of put maybe a little dark purple, a little blue over here, kind of creating a deep shadow. And where I need to blend that in, we'll do that. A total dyslexia moment. And I mean not in a small way, I don't think.
Made the neck backwards there?
Yes.
But that's okay.
I did. That's so funny.
On the original?
Yeah.
Well, so, it wasn't, people may not have understood that was what you were intending to do, and that was just sort of an interesting color, because you know how when you do abstract things, your brain fills
But you can see what's happening is, and this is something that I deal with in my own learning process, is sometimes my mind, whether I like it or not, flips things on me. It just mirrors it. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how I might go ahead and change that line. So let's call it a new step, and then I'll show you changing that line, because wow. You could go with this line, but if you had the traceable, I'm doing something totally different than you. So I'm going to go ahead and fix that line. Wow. That was a very strange choice of me. What was I doing, John? And it was so interesting because my artist brain was like, hey. So I'm going to just go ahead and move that over here. And then I'm going to come back and sort of change this up a little bit here. And we're just going to move the neck. That sounds okay to everybody. What? That doesn't happen to me that much, but when it does, it's a doozy. Get a little bit of my Quin and my yellow and maybe a little Dox. Boy, I had a little moment. So if you have any type of neurodivergent, right, where your brain is wired a little differently than the typical ADHD, just anything on the spectrum, just any neurodivergence, you may find that when you paint, you have little moments like this. And I hope it's helpful to know that I too have little moments like this, and it's fine. I'm just kind of reorienting back to where we were. We took a little blue up there, and you can see I'm just kind of coming back, and that was crazy. How many people caught it? This is like when you walk out of a restroom with toilet paper on your shoe and nobody wants to tell you. So I'm sort of bringing that blue line down there around the face. And that's not too bad. Okay, guys? So we got that. That's funny. That happened. Now, one thing I might do to smooth all this out is I might take a dry blending brush and go ahead and go over the wet paint just to make sure that this layer is also pretty smooth transition and looks fairly blended to the space. All right. Got to get my little teammate back on my team over here. Get on my live chat. How is everybody? Let's do this as a step, and I'll dry this and we'll come back. So, right. So you guys are noticing that. So that happens to me. I do when I'm doing roses or complicated shapes. I flip things sometimes in my brain, and it takes me a second to catch up to the fact that that happened. So that's what happened to me there, and that's how I would fix it if I caught myself doing that. So hopefully that's a useful bit of information.
Yeah, so don't worry, we'll get this indicated here. We'll get steps put up and make sure that you guys can track this as we go. But thoroughly dry up between the steps. Make sure that that way when you get on the next, like I said earlier, we're going to start doing some of those watery effects. And when you do the watery effects, it will lift the paint. So you got to make sure that that's thoroughly dry. So also, if you want to find in the link in the description down below, you'll find there is a link to our website and all the resources that are available. And you'll be able to find those.
I need a microwave.
There we go.
Lori Petit is like, I thought I was losing my mind. No, it's me. It's me losing my mind. And that happens. And I think it's important to know, like, sometimes we have pressure. There is pressure. And I'll touch you real quick while John hits my coffee. We have various pressure. Huh?
I haven't stepped yet. I'll step afterwards.
Okay, yeah. We'll step after. So here's the thought, and I think this is important. I have the perceived pressure of being live and having hundreds of people watch me, and, you know, all the fear that humans would have about criticism and not looking like you're as good as you could be. All those things are human pressures that I would be under. And you guys at home, you have these human pressures of the painting that you wish you could do, the painting that you have in your mind, the artist that you're hoping to be. And when you're learning how to paint, feeling like that painting isn't living up to that moment, that artistic pressure, what is going on there. So it's important to know that the pressures are in our head, right? They're not a reality. We have to, in reality, deal with those pressures, those perceived pressures, criticism from the outside world, being live, whatever they are. The pressure of it is a reality, but the reality is those pressures we put on ourselves. And we can put them down if we choose to. So that's something that I think we all go through, right? Is that expectation that we place on ourselves in the way we question ourselves as artists and as human beings. And I definitely wanted this coffee. to sit here and look. I feel like, yeah, I'm ready for a step, I think. And I put out Quin Magenta instead of Cad Red. It's okay, babe. It is super okay. But let me get the chat back going. I lost the chat again. So that's another thing. Wow. This is my day, isn't it? There she is. I'm going to throw her out. I was like, man, I am getting frustrated in my color mix. That's why. So I'm putting out Cad Red. Now we have Quin Magenta and Cad Red. I am sorry. You bought Cad Red. There we are. What a weird day.
Oh, yeah, it is. It's weird.
It's just a weird day, and they happen. Doesn't mean I don't paint. Doesn't mean I don't get into it. I think I'm going to go reset all this here if you guys will indulge me. I'm going to take a little of my Cad Red and my Dioxazine Purple together. And my titanium white, and then be super relieved. But much lighter. There we go. That was an interesting little series of events. There's a lot of pressure in our world to be perfect. There's a lot of pressure in our world to never misstep or never make a mistake. I don't know about any of you, but in life, how many of us feel a tremendous amount of pressure to have every decision that we make work out perfectly? I mean, we're not psychic, but we still put that pressure on ourselves to foresee the future perfectly, to kind of, you know, game in the system, pick the right job, say no at the right time, say yes at the right time, take the right opportunities, turn down the wrong opportunities. There we go. And just always have it together no matter what. Now I might get a little yellow into that. There we go. Things will get much chiller now. So that's something that we're all confronted with, isn't it? That need to be perfect. That pressure to always, always, always. I'm going to grab a little bit of my purple over here. But interestingly enough, this time a little Cad Red. And some white. Just enjoy resetting my jaw. There we go. You know, perfect show, perfect sound, perfect parent, perfect child. Perfect. Nobody is, and we all know it, but we don't let ourselves off the hook of that. We don't let ourselves off the hook of that burden. We're constantly, constantly holding that over our own heads. I'm just using this number 10 Raphael. I'm going to go ahead and get a little purple under here. Just Dioxazine Purple. And I'm going to start to blend that in. Just go ahead and fade that in. And come here and round everything out. Come in, I'm just rounding out her face. I'm just getting it to where I'm happy. And go ahead and grab a little purple and Cad Red here. Just start to think about the mouth. Again, that number 10 round. It's just a round brush that's good for acrylic paint. It can be anything. Just making sure that I like the bow of the lip. Grabbing a little more white. And I'm spending some time in that face. So I'd love to know, in your life, where do you find that you put that pressure to never make a mistake or never let your humanness show? The fact that we're just people. No matter who we are, we're just people. And, you know, we're all out there in the same way, just in the world doing our best, just trying to make good decisions for an uncertain future, right? An uncertain painting, an uncertain future. And it's about staying in and continuing to layer and continuing to choose to make decisions. And then at the end of that, what happens is this. But you have to hang in through the hard parts. All right. Amethyst is off to make Rockstar and Protein Muscle Milk and Recovery Rockstar good breakfast. Well, that sounds absolutely awesome. You can come over to my house and do that for me. Better than perfect, Sherpa's real. That is one thing I will give you. I will give you real. Now, I'm in my studio, so I'm always kind of okay here. Even when I'm unhappy as I'm painting, I'm going to get happy. So there is some, not my whole day, right? Because like my studio time is great time. But, you know, in it, I'm gonna always try to show you exactly where I'm at so you know it's okay to be where you're at. Because if I don't show you that, you might go around thinking it's not okay to be exactly where you're at. Let's dry this and we're gonna continue on. Do some fun stuff.
So yeah, guys, make sure you thoroughly dry that, Aaron. Next step, and you can find down in the link in the description down below, you're going to find a whole bunch of references on links to, you know, like our mini books, to the website where you can find references that'll make your journey much easier. While you're there, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button. Those things really also help us out. And if you care to, share it, because sharing really is caring. That's one of the ways you guys can totally help us out. Let's see here. Yeah, I think that pretty much covers all of the cool stuff. While you're at our website, you can check out like the store, which is coming along. We got new stuff coming in there every day. We'll have the patronage, which is a place where everyone can learn more about how to help support us.
Thank you so much for hanging in here.
So you ready for your next step?
Yeah. So there's a lot of fun silliness on the background that I'm going to get to do. A lot of playfulness and drips and expressiveness. But I still want to lighten up this value here. Doing things, you know, a bunch of different ways has definitely impacted that. So I'm going to take a little bit of my Cad Red and Dox Purple and add quite a lot of white and glazing medium. And that's how I would get that value up. When I design something like this, which again, I recorded so you could see that process, you know, I changed my mind a bunch of times. Not flip the whole head around, change my mind always, but I can. That is a known thing to happen. And I will take time and evaluate, you know, what I've got going on a good bit. And try not to get too in my head about it. I think we're going to continue on having a little fun here around the face. I'm going to go ahead and get maybe a little bit of the blue and the Dox Purple and a little bit of white. And come here and sort of lighten the outer side of that lid. Maybe a little more into that purple. And back into our blue a little bit under here. And you can see I'm using the softness of the brush to blend that value out. And go ahead and kind of shade in that inner corner. A little purple there, just playing with it. I'm going to go across the nose with just a slightly darker color. Right, so I'm talking about that sort of dish. And then back into the blue. The blue and purple. Because again, we've got the hair here, which that would create a shadow, and then, you know, kind of coming down the nose. And then let's come here into this purple and quinacridone and that mix. And let's lighten this up right here. Kind of above the dish. Just working this out, guys. Just shading this out. I would not paint acrylic paint without one of these brushes now that I know about it. I love the number 12 Princeton Select Round Blender. I love it so much. It is such a fantastic brush. I can't tell you how fantastic it is. I'm going to leave a little shadow at the tip of my nose, but I'm going to add a bit of a highlight here. Kind of blend between the two. I know I spend a lot of time on my noses, just generally. Adding a little bit of a highlight out to that outer nostril. It's amazing how they kind of come out, isn't it? Kind of working that all out. All right, let's give that a dry. A little bit of a dry, and then we're going to do some playful fun stuff.
Yeah, so make sure you, again, as the big part of this is, oh no, I'm talking to them. She's like, I can't hear you. I was like, because I'm talking to you guys. So yeah, thoroughly dry that. Make sure that you get it all the way dry. I keep saying that. That is, and this one, it's going to be one of those important things because the layers can be so thin, and it's super important to get them dry because they'll lift each other and carry. It's especially important if you're doing like student paints, because those can have more of those tendencies to them. So, and if you're using glazing medium, that was the other thing, is that if you use glazing medium, it can be deceptive because it won't necessarily show, you know, it may dry slower than normally, and that's why it can, yeah, she touches it to make sure that it thoroughly dries.
That it's dry. I gotta touch it. I gotta touch it with my hands, because that's how I know things. Man, I know I had a saran wrap. Oh, there it is. Okay, so we're gonna do some fun techniques, some goofy techniques, some silliness over the next one. And while we're allowing one of the techniques to set up, I'm gonna answer piano in Art's question. because it's sort of interesting. But the first thing that I'm going to do is I am going to take this number 18 hog bristle round, because it's going to give me a nice amount of water. Take a little bit of my yellow over to my green. And I'm going to come here and coming down the nose and across. Even though it will be covered, we're still going to do it. Maybe bring it down a little bit this time. I'm just making sure it's fairly wet. I'm going to go ahead and get a little mix of yellow and stuff there, and I'll put my eyebrows and stuff back. I'm going to take a little sheet of Saran wrap. Hopefully get it on the canvas soon enough. And I'm going to lay it over my surface and allow it to wrinkle up. And this has to sit for a second, so since it just has to real-time sit for a second, and I don't pre-paint, I don't Martha Stewart this at all.
We can make you big and let you answer some questions.
I'll answer some questions while this is having a sit.
Yeah, I can microwave your coffee for you.
One of my favorite techniques. Now the trick is you need enough water in it where it collects into the Saran wrap, and it needs to sit just long enough to cure. What are my questions? Coffee, I love it.
And there were a lot of people asking about where the resources are on the website.
Okay, and the move. Okay, so first the resources on the website. If you go to the website and you go to the video tab, you can find the video tabs for this painting. And in that tab will be the materials. I'll have to update them with the Quin Magenta, which I used in the beginning. But there'll be the materials, the traceable, the difficulty level, a reference that you can print out and look at. In the mini books tab, when we get the mini book done, the written out instructions, that will be placed there. You also have a traceables tab, so you can just keyword search the traceable. We have a store if you want to get the watercolor stuff there, and our store is going to be opening really, really soon here in February. And that's what they keep telling us, so we're going to get that open in February and be able to provide these materials, maybe not the Saran wrap, but the rest of the materials you'd be able to get from the store. And Piano and Art asked about the move. So where we're at in the move is right now we're in a holding pattern at my mom's house. We're being house guests at my mom's house. Our visa is in process. We're getting a specific kind of work visa so that we can YouTube and work in Ireland. When we initially looked at it, we were told we could just come over and, you know, because we worked online, that was just mistaken information. Luckily, when we made our announcement, some of you guys were like savvy, and you're like, I think Ireland considers YouTube work. So we went and looked, and it did, and we found an attorney that specializes in that specifically. We have a moving company. We have an Irish employee. Hi. So we have our Irish company is set up now, like officially, and we'll be over there as soon as we can. I have what I'm coming up with is the visa looks like it's about to clear fairly soon, but I also have Acrylic April coming up, and then I have NAMTA, and now we're trying to figure out about international flights, about when our perfect jump is. We're going to make a bigger video. Oh, Crystal Blake, I still didn't get my watercolors yet. Crystal, write support at theartsherpa.com and we will track that down. Listen, if ever anything is ever wrong with an order, you write us. Just write us. Any of you guys, just write us. Doesn't matter why it happened or how it happened, just write us, and we are here to help, and we've got help helping us help. So, you know, that's always a good way to go. I can now adopt a 4-leaf clover. I think maybe I can, and I'll get to start over, and I'll have to start over anyways. Well, I am excited to be doing that. We had COVID for us, like many of you, was a really intense time for a variety of reasons, and myself, John, the kids, we're all sort of coming out of that. It's actually been kind of nice to be at my mom's house because she's so sweet and she's so kind. And so the kids have really gotten to experience that, and I think they needed that. So it's been a nice thing. It's been a really good thing. Are we going to be over by St. Patrick's Day? I don't know. It's the process. There's visas, and they have a processing time, and it takes the lawyers a certain amount of time. Everything takes the time it takes. But we're actually I think we're already kind of Irish minded because we're like, it's cool.
Yeah.
We're like, when, you'll get to it. We're very chill.
It's actually quite we're not really concerned. It's just one of those things where it just takes the time that it takes because you have to fill out paperwork, then they have to get a little thing back. Then when you get that thing back, you got to submit it, and then you get a number. And then when you get that number back, then you can submit it, and then you can have the next step. And it's just like in America, we have all the similar stuff. You got to have a birth certificate to get a social security number, to get a driver's license, to get a passport, blah, 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 real ID to be able to get on a plane. It's all the same stuff, but they got it different.
Courtney's saying that she loves being around her family and it just helps her feel whole. And I am very blessed I get to have that experience. I get along really well with my mom, and I really like my mom, and I have been friends with my mom my whole life. I know not everybody gets that. Not everybody gets kind. I think Gen X knows that especially, but not everybody does. And I just want you to know that when I'm talking about loving and enjoying my mom, I recognize that's not everybody's experience, and I validate what anybody has to do in relationship to their life, their happiness, and their mental health. I'm just very lucky that we have that here. And I'm really glad I get to spend the time with that, and that my kids get to see that and see what that looks like. I'm really glad. All right. So I'm going to lift this up. And I think hopefully we let it set long enough to get a pattern, which we did. Very careful on the lift up. And you can kind of see the crazy patterning. And then I'm going to dry it with a hairdryer.
And then I think that will be how you can get this. And that's you can let it sit longer. You don't have to let it just if you didn't get this effect all the way this time, you can always just try it again. And this is one of those techniques which is really good to try out. Like if you have a spare canvas or surface or even some old cardboard, you can try this out. That way you can practice it ahead of time. If you're worried about putting this directly on the thing you just painted, which I could understand that anxiety. So another thing to know is that if you remove it and it doesn't do this, you can, while it's still wet, wipe a lot of it off because until it cures, it won't fully stick to the paint below it. Now, that varies from paint to paint, but you guys have seen, if you've been here on the show a little while, you've seen Cinnamon be able to do that. She can just sort of go in there and erase a little bit, but it really depends on how cured the paint is. So, make sure. Especially here, you'll want to just wait for it to dry, because that will make sure that it's ready for that next step. So when you start painting over it, and that's going to be the critical part. I did just make her smaller so that we could get to the next part. She was sorry I left her big there for a minute.
All right. That's going actually pretty well.
It is. This is going faster than I thought.
So, yeah, this was just a long painting when I did it originally, which is why we almost didn't teach it as a class. And then you guys were like, put it into 2. And I was like, okay, but it's mad chaos. As long as you know that, let's go. The other thing to know, if you're doing this technique for the first time and it gives you grief, it's not the most important technique in the painting. I had it in the time lapse, and I know a lot of you guys were interested in seeing it again, so I wanted to do it. But if it goes awry on you, this painting is about layers. As long as you've got the layers, you're okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and get clean water out of my bucket. New step.
New step, all right.
And we're going to start another kind of experimental technique. We're going to do a drip. I'm going to take my Phthalo Blue and my Phthalo Green together, and a little of my Phthalo White, and it's going to be a little waterier because we're going to do a drip. I'm going to come here and I'm going to kind of do a wet application out. And I'm going to make sure that some of my drips do some very specific things, but I'll let some of them just go wherever they want to go. And it's not going to be really all over the face. It's just over here to the side. Just mixing a little white into my turquoise. Kind of just squeezing out even the pigment out of the brush. And it's okay to just, you know, like I kind of join them up and that's sort of random. I like that a lot. That's just a nice little drip down, unexpected, fun element of the piece. And then, you know, we can come back. I'm going to take this brush and put it to the side. I'm going to come back with this round. I'm going to get her fairly wet and I'm going to add a lot of white. Maybe even a little yellow to kind of really brighten this up. And I'm going to come into the drip, kind of wet into wet here. And I'm going to paint in the drip, which I don't think we've done on the channel really before, painted into a wet and active drip, but that's a thing that you can do. And because the paints are both wet, you'll get some of that watercolory, bloomy diffusion that's sort of fun. Oh, I forgot to put the paper towel down under my canvas. It's a good idea. My canvas is on a tilt. It's tilted up. So this is, I've got gravity helping me help it dip down. You may have to tilt your canvas up to get the drip to go. My canvas is on a drip, on a tilt. And one thing that you can do if you've got it on a tilt or just are doing a drip technique is allow everything to drip off the edge by putting a paper towel down here to catch the mess. There we go. We're going to just keep coming around. You guys are good. You're doing good. You can see I can add a little water into that and move that multi-tonal drip. Now, I don't do the yellow part of it right now at all, my friends. I just want the two tones of blue. Put my brushes to the side. And I'm going to grab a paper towel. Hi.
This is where it's real important to have it dry so all this works.
Huh?
It's really important to have it dry so that this very liquidy stuff doesn't lift the...
Yeah. So I love the extra technique Cinnamon is using. Thank you so much. No, it's fun to do some extra stuff every once in a while. It's fun to be playful on your surface. It's fun to do what, you know, to see where things can go and see where things can take you. That's a fun thing. Now, we're going to let it dry for a minute, so we'll take some more questions. I don't even want to put my hairdryer to it for a minute because these are fairly wet drips. And if I blow dry it, my mom actually got me a diffuser. She's been using a diffuser at the end of her dryer, but the diffuser doesn't fit this dryer, so I make it a different dryer. And the diffuser has been preventing paper and the drips from going crazy places. But I have the old school, so we're going to let it dry for a second, and then we'll come in and hair dry it.
Carly really loves the extra techniques that you're taking the time to show.
Oh, thank you. And I see that Bionic Woman, Jamie Summers, is thanking me for tilting the canvas, makes the technique easier to see. I think it is. I think it has been easier. It's been easier for me to see the work, and I think it's been easier for you guys to not have it on a roundabout table. you know. And then Crystal Blake would like to know if anyone is painting right now. And then Kenzie's like, if I was painting, I would not be reading the comments. I do think your guys' inclination to watch the video, be here for the live chat, and then paint is smart. I think it's very smart because it allows you to see the piece go in and kind of see everything happen. And then it doesn't really take you by surprise. Like now, you know, oh my gosh, he's going to have to move that whole neck. And when you rewatch, you're going to be like, can you see it yet? Can you see it yet? And then I'm going to be like, I can't see it yet, but I'll see it soon. So that's sort of one of those funny things that is impactful, you know, to us as we go. It's sort of an enjoyable bit.
You're just testing?
No, I know it's still wet.
Yeah.
So do we have any other questions while we're sitting here to make it kind of a Q&A?
Let me go back here and look and see what we got.
We are going to be doing a giveaway soon because we hit 700,000 subscribers, which is a huge deal. And we're hoping to hit the 1 million this year. So tell all your friends to subscribe. Put wishes in the ether that we get to 1 million because I'd love to get the gold button this year. I know that's a silly thing, but
I think it's
cool.
cool.
It's just a dream. So like it's a dream that doesn't hurt anybody.
Yeah.
I would really love that, just personally to me. So I will be doing a giveaway. I just want the store to be open so that we can give away good stuff. I am having a giveaway, though, on the watercolor channel coming up, and that's to give away 3 watercolor kits to 3 lucky Sherpettes. And it's simple entries, simple rules. So 3 lucky, you got to be 18 and in a country that allows giveaways. And it can't break a giveaway rule for where you live. And shipping is under 30, but Colleen said all the shipping is under 30, so not to worry.
We're trying to work on our shipping.
Okay. So I was like, oh, good. So it's a global one. That means all of our community, a whole art family is included, which I really, really like. Like even on the one from our store, because I don't know if we have international shipping set up, I'll have some international parts of the giveaway just to make sure that a whole art family is included. Bionic Woman says, where do you come up with your ideas of things to paint? So in the design process, there is a couple of components of inspiration. Trends, right? Like what's just going on right now will definitely impact me as an artist. Like what is happening in the world, what is exciting, what is sort of going on will impact me. Sometimes I'll be inspired by things I'm seeing online, not copying it, no, but like I'll be like, oh, I like this kind of drippy painting, or I like, you know, something that's going on, and I might incorporate some element of that. Avatar wasn't an inspiration for this, but I wanted to do something that was fairy tale and kind of otherworldly. And the hair, which is back, the one-eyed hair, because all my kids wanted one-eyed hair, it's back, was like probably from growing up, that one-eyed hair thing that we all wanted to do. So that was probably from my childhood. And then the colors was just me trying to get inspiration on colors that I wouldn't typically work in. I wanted to work in a really unusual color palette. So that was sort of really fun, was doing that. All right, let's dry it.
You think we can give it a dry now?
Yeah.
A dry try to see. It doesn't look like it's moving, so we might be able to get the dry this time. Yep. I'm all holding my breath here going, is it going to move? It's not. It's looking pretty good, so I think that this will be fine. So she's just going to thoroughly dry that up, and then we'll move on to the next step, I think. I'm not sure how many steps today we're going to do, or how many steps we're going to divide this into. We can ask that at the next step. But it is really turning out. Really looking sharp, as they say. Got the just happy. I was just over here looking at the other camera. I was like, oh, I want to adjust that other one up, match a little bit. So I just touch that up a little bit, make it a little brighter. Anyway, you know, those things while you do while you're looking at cameras. Just go, oh man, I gotta make a change. Nothing. Just doing stuff.
Stuff. Just
Okay,
doing
a
stuff.
question. So
Okay, I have an answer.
How are we breaking this up into things?
Well, I'm going to paint today a little bit longer because I need to get some more things finished on her, so we're not at it for 3 hours tomorrow.
That's what I was curious about. It's just wasn't sure.
Yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, not necessarily halfway, but far enough along that tomorrow is the downhill ride.
All right. So here is the next step.
So step 9. It's going to have a lot of steps. You're going to need more than what we normally have. Okay, big lessons are like that, you know? It's the big lessons. I'm going to take my Cad Red over to my Dox Purple and get these two together. I'm going to go ahead and add white. I'm using a small number 4 hog bristle brush by Artini line in Raphael's collection. I like them very much. I'm going to come here and start to work some lip. Start to work this up. To begin to create the little values and planes of value that I will be focusing on in the lips. It's important stuff. The way that they highlight or shade is a big deal. I'm on the toe of the brush, and I am sort of using the softness of this particular brush to help me. Come under here and make sure that this has a nice sort of shadow under that part of the lip. Just a deeper amount of purple. I'm going to begin to add a little of the sort of little mid shadow on the roll of the lip. I always think it's sort of fun to shade lips. Shading lips is always like enjoyable to me. It's just it's an area that I can easily get pulled into. I find it just super enjoyable. You know, come in and get a little blue. Maybe a little glaze and a little blue. Come underneath here. We're kind of creating a little bit of the shadow under the lip that will be you know, about what's going on with our chin. I come under the nose again. Little blue, little glaze. And again, this isn't the finish. This is really to get, you guys often ask, like, what does it take to paint something like that? And I'm like, oh, like a lot. This is what I mean. It's not that any technique here is particularly hard. It's not hard to drip paint or hard to do some saran wrap once you get the basic fundamentals of the technique. It's just there's a lot of technique. And then sometimes you reverse the neck. And so you gotta come back and, you know, do that.
Yeah.
I love how everyone is just too polite to tell me that it happened. I think that is sort of super funny. Okay, just come in here, pulling this there. I like that. I'm just creating that shadow in that inner eye. Back into my purple here, maybe a little more purple. And I'm going to come under the nose. Kind of create a little forward shadow there. I love doing this part. It's like kind of my fave. You know, usually we're trying to cook through here so fast, get a lesson in, that it's a little tough to get all the little nuances, you know? I'm going to curl a little bit of nostril back. Curl a little bit of nostril sort of back. It's subtle, but it's there. You know, it's important. You know, getting a really light value. Come in there with the, I put a little blue in there to cool that. Coming in that outside edge with just a smidge of a highlight. Just blending. You can see I just use a very soft brushwork, right? It's just super, super duper soft. And then blending into where I have to go. Making sure that transition into the dish of the nose is pretty chill. If it goes too far back, then I gotta come forward a bit. And that's sort of a fun space to be playing on. Got to make sure you got the highlights where you need the highlights. And back into the blue. And then where the blue is, I definitely want to get some white involved. Right here. I'm going to wipe this off on a paper towel, and you can see I'm going to just very gently kind of light the inner part of that eye against the shadow on the nose. And it is, I am going to just make sure that these things are soft, right? Because that's how they work, is they have to be somewhat soft. Back into the blue. And again, since we have a lot of this sort of to do, that's where the length of the tutorial sort of lives in, is in that space. There we go. See, we're starting to get that shape of everything, aren't we? I can go and get a little of the white and purple. There we go. And you can see that that lid is starting to form up and, you know, become what we need it to become. I'm going to grab a little bit of my red into my white. Yes, I've got hair and stuff coming down, but that doesn't mean that I don't want to make sure that, you know, I'm paying attention to the planes of my face. The planes of my face, my plain face. Face planes. I'm going to come here and start to think about the chin. I've got my purple, cad red, and white. Sometimes it gets a little blue into it as I mix back and forth between those colors, which is why this has such unusual color.
You know who was a fan of faces on planes?
But not snakes?
Picasso.
Picasso.
He put faces on planes.
I did not know that.
Different planes. Because they were all different.
Oh, man. I never get the dad jokes.
How do I get all these faces off all these planes? See,
what's that thing you're always talking about where people think they're smarter than they are?
Dunning-Kruger effect?
The Dunning-Kruger effect? Yeah, like I had that like when, like for a minute when I was reading like the Da Vinci Code. I was feeling all smart, and then I realized like later, I'm like, this isn't what? Of course it's an apple. I just knew a thing about Newton. What?
Gravity works.
I'm creating this little plane here. Get a little white into there and kind of come on the outside. Maybe that's a bit of a highlight.
You know who is not a fan of faces on planes?
Mm-hmm.
Dali.
Mm-hmm.
He melted them all.
He did the astral plane.
He did melted faces.
Melted
so they're
faces.
not on a plane. They're very amorphous.
We're having some art humor today. I didn't even know was coming.
Abstract thought.
Just making sure that this is sort of shaded. So what we're creating is a little shadow kind of implied under that little chin, right? So that we can have a little bit of a chin there. We want a little bit of a chin. Don't you want a little bit of a chin? I don't know if you do. Kind of like brush that down. You can see that I'm just using this brush to get that very, very satisfying sort of side deal going. I'm going to take a little bit of my Phthalo Blue and Dioxazine Purple, and I'm going to come over here. Make sure that that is very nice coming off the edge.
Bionic Women, I will directly address your question. We have a team of Sherpa gnomes who go out there and scour the web and look at all the other prices and go, how are they doing that? And then we adjust our prices accordingly for our new store. So yes, we are very competitively priced. We do not like the Amazon price gouging approach to product stuff.
Yeah, the first time it just charged you guys a bazillion.
Yeah.
I had this sharpener I liked, and it was a panda and a cat. And the little tongue pulled out the thing, and you put the pencil in the eyes.
Pulled out the thing.
Very funny. Pulled out the pencil shavings.
The drawer for the pencil shavings.
Yeah, pulled out the drawer for the pencil shavings. Very funny. Plus, it did different lengths of light. It was really great for art, and I really loved it. And it was like $19.95, which for the pencil sharpener
Which
was.
you thought it was reasonable for a.
So
and then,
I shared it, and then in a minute it was $80, and I'm like, that made me so mad.
we do not agree with that process. So yes,
No.
we will definitely be having. We will have our prices are set based on the cost of goods plus our markup to operate our store, and then we have a minimum pricing agreements for some stuff. So that pretty much governs our stuff. We're not looking to run an algorithm where we maximize profit based
now,
on
that doesn't mean that a store might not have bigger buying power than we
true.
have. And I won't be mad at you for you going and getting a deal.
So far, we have only found one product in one category where they could beat our price. And we were like, what? And we did some investigating, and we found that we think that there may be, like, they got some definite, like, bulk purchasing deal, but it's certainly not a replicatable thing. So, and it was one of, like, several thousand products that we had that after doing searches of hundreds of other sites online, we found that there was one company that could beat our price. And we were like, what?
We're so competitive.
We were. It was like, this just created an entire internal conversation of, like, how can that be? What is happening? We must understand this science.
It was pretty funny around here. It's pretty funny around here.
We do take our store very seriously.
I take all the stuff I do very seriously. All
like
right.
A Corvid.
Yeah, that sucks. Greedy humans. Yeah, man, it's a weird stage of life when you realize humans are not the hero of the story. You're like, man, all the Bond villains had a point.
Again, 80s movies could have told you this.
Oh, yeah. See, I realize what it is with AI. That's artificial intelligence. Why my generation is completely non-pulsed by it. It's because Sarah Connor has been getting us ready for this since the beginning.
Yeah.
Like, this is not a surprise. We're like, AI is coming for my jobs. We're like,
pretty much since about the time we were 5, we have been inundated with prepare for the end of the world in some various scenario.
Of robots.
Robots, AI, Russians, zombies. Oh, God.
I'm not staying for zombies, though.
There was the Andromeda Effect, I think, was one of the early plague movies that came out.
I'm just coming here and just kind of creating a bit of a glow on the chin here.
Andromeda
I don't know
strain,
if you can
that's
see
what it
this. This is like, it's subtle, but this stuff, can you see how it's starting to like take shape? That stuff matters. Matters a lot.
So we're prepared.
Not white, but I just need to have, you know, that little glow on those planes so that they have the little shape that they have, right? Oops, so I got to blend that out a bit. So it was just a little bit heavy here, but this is what I do. I just come here and I just blend it out, see? Just soft blending back and forth. You know, I was a little worried for y'all. I was going to get you through this, but I think we are. We're going to definitely get you through this. Now, there's a lot more detail and work to do, but I think that we have enough done today that we'll be able to effectively finish up tomorrow. Okay? So a minute. So I think we'll be 3 hours, 3.5 total hours on this lesson is a total lesson in the film. And then you should expect, if you haven't done this before, that you give yourself more than that in time. Double at least, maybe triple or quadruple in your own painting process, because it may take you a while to figure out how to get your tools to softly shade the different planes of the face, right? It may take you a second to get that. Plus, you've got to see me switch the neck 2 or 3 times. But understand that I didn't throw the canvas away, and I didn't stop, and I didn't walk, and I didn't freak out on the live show and end the stream and start over again, right? Like, how many times did we do that as kids when we got something wrong or we had to erase it? We just crumpled up the paper and threw it away. In art, you don't get to hear unless you go through all the places. You got to go through all the places. And honestly, she'll probably be a little bit better this time. I mean, because it's the second time I'm painting her. So I took an idea and I had some weird experiments here. Over there, I had so many weird experiments. But the thing is that every time I think about something, that's why artists iterate. That's why they visit a concept and then they come back to it, and they visit a concept and they come back to it. That's why they do it, right? So I hope you like crazy lessons like this. You know, I hope you guys enjoy it. I know it was a little awkward in the beginning, but I hope that that was also helpful and enjoyable for you guys. I am going to be back at noon tomorrow to finish the painting with you. Feel free to share your work in progress in group. If you're getting done tonight, you don't have to, by the way. You don't have to do that at all. That's not a pressure, but there is a Facebook group, the Art Sherpa Official, and you can come share your stages there. Use the traceable if you're having trouble putting in the face. Look, you would have had the neck correct. And don't worry about that. It's not cheating to use a traceable. I didn't, but I've done this a lot, right? So there's kind of a projection in my head that I built up. Transferring, that's a classical medieval art technique. It just is. It was created by masters because it's good. Gridding, created by masters because it's good. Camera obscura, which is projection, created by masters because it's good. The thing where the sand goes down the statue, created by masters because it's these techniques are not cheating. They are techniques that artists before you, artists that you're standing on the shoulders of, worked very hard to create. And do I think that you should enjoy drawing? Yes, but you know what I know won't make you enjoy drawing? Is making you draw something when you already feel under a lot of pressure about techniques or new concepts or faces or different things. I know you'll get there. I believe in you. I know eventually you will find that moment that excites you. And so I don't put a lot of pressure on you guys to do that here because I know it will come. And I've seen you guys, I've been on for what, 7 years?
Gosh,
not today. It feels like today.
Maybe a little bit more. I don't know.
Maybe a little bit more, right? I've been on for a minute, and here's what I can tell you guys is that many people they're on 1,000 paintings maybe. Maybe they painted almost everything I painted. They all find their way. They do. They find their inner artist. It's amazing. You just see it happen again and again and again at different times, at different numbers of paintings in their own way because they're each unique. They find it, and then they're there. And so that's the other good reason to share in group is because even those painters that you're in there going, ooh, they're so good. They're so good. They were early painters just like you. They know how you feel. They have heart for your experience. They know your frustration. So when you share, you're going to get somebody, no matter how good it looks like they're painting now, who's going to go like, oh, I remember how that felt. Believe in yourself. Keep going. You're going to get there. It's just a process. Because I can tell you, I got a YouTube channel. You'd be like, oh, she just wants some likes and some clicks. She's telling me I'm a good artist, right? But when you talk to 200 people who were like, oh, yeah, I remember my first painting. That was... And sometimes they'll share it with you. Sometimes they'll be like, you want to see my first one? And because they want you to know you're okay. There's a wonderful artist in our group, Alicia Hoots. She'll periodically show you her early work to now. And she's done portraits of me, portraits of my mom that are just like photograph perfect. They're insanely, but it was a journey for her. It's a journey for all of us. So I want you guys to be good to yourselves, and I want you guys to be good to each other. And I'm going to see you tomorrow at this easel again to finish this painting. Okay, bye-bye.